white, rosé, bubbly, reds, anything. But eventually I came back to South Africa, and I met a winemaker that invited me to come and harvest for a couple of days. And then I decided, well, this is what I want to do. I want to make wine. I don't just want to drink it. And I enrolled at Elsenburg, and I completed my studies in 2013. And since then, I've been loving what I'm doing, making wine, and then obviously selling wine, and also doing the marketing side.
Wow, what a story. That's so interesting. So, can you tell us a little bit of the history of Malisat Vineyards?
Yes, Melasat Vineyards is a boutique winery in Paarl. It's situated close to the Huguenot Tunnel, so it's the other side of Paarl town. And the farm dates back to 1693, so the original Dekkers Vlei farm. And the current owner, Stephen Richardson, bought the farm in 1997, and he started making wine in 1999. In those days, the farm only grew Chenin Blanc, which was delivered to one of the co-ops here in Paarl. And he then decided, no, I don't want to just make white wine. So he started replanting, and he kept the oldest 2 blocks of Chenin Blanc. The farm is not that big. It's about 13 hectares, and we've got 8 hectares under vine, and then we also have guava orchards. So Stephen, he is a farmer. He's got a farm in the UK, but he doesn't grow grapes there. He grows barley, wheat, and sugar beet. But he's very passionate about wine, so he decided now he needs to purchase a farm where he can actually make some wine. And that is how he ended up in South Africa.
Oh, what a nice story. So you guys are part of the Paarl wine route, so welcoming visitors to your farm. So what can a guest experience when visiting Malisat?
Well, we are very small, so firstly, when people visit our farm, they may see Stephen or myself or one of the other guys working in the cellar there. And when we're all busy, all of us has a turn to be in the tasting room and present our wine. So we're very proud to be passionate and very personal about our wine tasting, and we want people to experience our passion. So when we do our wine tastings, there's always stories to tell about a wine, where it comes from, why we make a wine in a specific style. We also have Cemetery of Forgotten Wines, which is a bizarre collection of old wines from all over the world and from South Africa, that people can view in our underground cellar. And then we also have a couple of food offerings. So people can really just spend the day there in the beautiful farm looking at our mountains.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So your wines that you're producing, can you tell us a little bit more about that, and also your own winemaking philosophy?
Well, Melasat is famous for our white pinotage. We were the first in the world to make a white pinotage in 2007. And so people come from far afield to come and taste the wine, because first they can't believe that there is a white pinotage on the market. So we like to experiment. We do things slightly different to other farms. And we produce also, apart from the white pinotage, Cabernet Sauvignon. We've got Tempranillo, Viognier, then also Chardonnay, and then an unwooded white blend. We've got a wonderful red blend, and also a Shiraz and a Shiraz Rosé. So our range of wines are quite big for a small winery, but you cover basically all tastes in wine. Our philosophy is that we like to make wines that reflect the terroir of our area. So Paarl is quite a warm area. We've got granite soils. So there was attention to detail when we chose the rootstock and the clones for our vineyards. And we want the terroir to show in our wine, and you can actually taste that. We also, our wine style is European. It's not New World. Stephen, because he grew up on European wines, he always wanted to make wines that can age a bit longer. And our wood component is never too much. That doesn't overpower our wine. It must just add a little bit of elegance and complexity to our wine.
So that's so interesting. So, especially the story about the white pinotage, where did this idea come from?
Well, the white pinotage, we made it, well, Stephen made the first barrel in 2007. And in the late 1990s, early 2000s, red pinotage was hammered in Europe, especially in Britain, for having rubbery and acetone flavors. And I think our South African palates were just used to those flavors, and we thought, well, that is what pinotage is about. But the British wine connoisseurs said, no, that is a wine fault. And a lot of research was done on that, and it is actually a winemaking fault. But Stephen's train of thought was in those days, well, those flavors are on the skins of the grapes. So if I eliminate the skin, let's see what happens. So he made the one barrel and he sold it at a wine show in Joburg, the content of that barrel. So thought, well, maybe there's a market for this. And then slowly he increased the production. And since 2012, we haven't produced red pinotage.
What an amazing story. So, where are your wines sold? Mostly in South Africa, I presume, or are you exporting?
Both really. Locally, our wines are available in more specialist wine shops. We also, it's also available in the Eastern Cape, where we're doing quite well with our wine, also in Gauteng. And then we're not really in big supermarkets because our production is too small. We produce about 40,000 bottles a year, so that has to cover our local market and exports. And our exports are mainly to Europe, so we're looking at Germany. We just sent a shipment during lockdown to the Netherlands, which safely arrived earlier this week, and then to Denmark, and then also the UK, then a little bit to the US, and we've also exported to Argentina.
Wow, that's quite interesting. Exporting to Argentina. I didn't expect that.
Yes.
You're actually the first winery I've spoken to that's actually mentioned that. So that's quite something for the books. So you mentioned a little bit about the, sorry, did you want to say something about the Argentina stuff?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because from there our wines eventually ended up in Peru as well. So we've been in touch with some sommeliers and wine shops in South America because of that one export to Argentina, the original one.
I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you are probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Let me repeat that, @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Now, on with the show.
So you mentioned the lockdown, and we know that the coronavirus has forced almost everyone to rethink their business models. Do you guys have any changes or any new ideas in place?
Well, this whole lockdown influenced everyone, and the first couple of days was quite you feel like you're in a maze and you can't get out of there, because you make a plan and you start working on it and then things change. So one thing that we've learned is that you have to be able to adapt quite fast. And that how important relationships are. And we were lucky that we started selling direct to customer. That's a new avenue that we explored beginning of the year. And that really worked for us during this. So a lot of people were ordering online. Also how it's different communicating with your customers in a digital way. So now you have to really rely on social media to get your message across. People can't taste your wine, so you have to kind of tell a story and make it a little bit visual. So we developed a social media plan, which was kind of in the pipeline, but we had to put it together quite fast to just reach our customers all over the place. And the other important thing is your relationships with your suppliers, your production team, your staff, everybody down the line. You need to keep in touch, and you need to be kind of positive about it, not negative. And it just it actually developed quite a few relationships, which was nice for us.
That's quite interesting. So do you think that social media is going to become more important going forward for your marketing?
It will, yes. Because we're such a small team, we have to be able to do everything. And because we couldn't get people to the farm, our tasting room manager, Alzan, she used to do a little bit of our social media, but now she's just doing social media. And it's not just posting, doing normal posts on Twitter and Facebook. It was also putting videos together and making it more interesting. And our followership on those social media platforms really grew over the last 8 weeks, which we are very happy about. So we gained a lot of new followers, and people actually ordered wine. So that was very positive for us.
That is awesome. I see you also have a wine club. So can you tell us a little bit more about the wine club?
Yes, the wine club started about 2013, and it is expanding at the moment. It's nice that people join, and it's quite easy. People can join, and they only have to buy 24 bottles a year. But we also have a wine club day. So if people order the allocated amount of wines, we invite them to the farm, and basically we entertain our clients where we will launch new wines, and they will get access to some of the experimental wines, which is not for sale in the trade. So we try to keep it very interesting for the wine club. And we've got quite a few members all over the country. It's not just here in the Western Cape. So in future, because of now all of this as well, we were thinking to not just having an open day at the farm, but also do it in the various provinces where we can invite our wine club members to come and join us and meet us and taste some new wine.
I think that's a clever idea, because I think the local market for everybody is going to become so much more important with possible tourist restrictions as well.
Yes, and apart from that, because I travel quite a lot, and Stephen as well, the owner, we go to these areas so they can come and basically meet the winemaking team. And it's not just a marketing person or a local agent that comes and do the wine tastings. It's actually some people from the farm, which I found over the years actually works quite well to promote your product, not just to rely on your local agent or representative.
Yeah, I think that personal touch, Matt, for every brand just are starting to matter so much more, in your modern day, and especially now that people are, like you said, things like social media to actually engage with your customers is becoming an art.
It is, and it's becoming more difficult because there's so much competition out there. Every winery wants to get their wine on a shelf or in somebody's home. So the personal touch really means something to the clients, especially when they're far away.
Yes. So, Michelle, your wine journey, what is the most important thing that you've learned?
Well, through the years, it's for me from a winemaking side is to understand your terroir, because we want to make wine that actually speak from that area. It must be very distinct, and it takes years to know your area and your parcels in your vineyards. So it's an ongoing learning curve, really, and it's a wonderful journey, just to learn about that. And in our area, we've noticed with a couple of farms in the area that there's a very specific flavor profile, where we are, which is totally different to the other side of Paarl. The other thing that is always also important for me is the relationships that you build over the years. Doesn't matter who you talk with. The wine industry is actually a very positive industry, and people are always willing to help and share ideas. And especially like a difficult harvest, you can speak to other winemakers and they will share their ideas and how they solve their problems. And that is very important. And it's a wonderful journey that in itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing I've learned by interviewing a lot of winemakers and people in the industry over the last few weeks is that the wine industry seems to be extremely collaborative. People are not shy to work together and to take hands.
Yes, that is one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into the wine industry. My first harvest that I did was the famous winemaker. I'm sure I can mention his name.
Yes, please do.
I met David Nieuwoud from Cederberg many years ago, and one day I got a call and he said to me, he's looking for a female winemaker to just come and help during the harvest for a couple of days. And I said, yes, I'll definitely be there. And that just was amazing, that somebody would actually share that information and not be shy to bring people that he doesn't know from anywhere into his cellar and to come and help to make wine. And that is how I would like to be. You need to share, you need to educate people on wine and help one another, because this is what it's about and this is how we will succeed.
So are you finding that young people are, the younger generation are interested in wine and the industry?
Yes, not as much as when I was younger, but there's a lot of young people that will come and talk and say, what is it like? What is the industry like? Is there a future in the industry? But I find that young people are probably a little bit more careful in what they drink. I mean, the whole trend is changing. So it means that we also have to adapt to what the young people are looking for and what they are drinking. But from a job perspective in the wine industry, it's very diverse. You don't necessarily have to make wine. You can be in marketing. You can be in one of the other industries that supplies the wine industry, like barrel suppliers, like suppliers that supply all the products for winemaking, yeast, and all those things. It's very interesting. So you don't have to physically get dirty and work these long hours during harvesting. And I don't think people understand this actual size of the wine industry.
I think that's very, very true. So the question I ask to everyone is to actually give us a wine quote. So can you give us your own wine quote or your favorite wine quote?
There's one that has been in our tasting room now for many years, and it's not a philosophical one. It's a little bit more like a joke, but I love that. It says, "Of course, size matters. Nobody wants a small glass of wine." And in these days, I think now that we can drink wine again, it's very important to have a nice glass of wine, but drinking responsibly.
That's an awesome quote. I love it.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you and interesting. So thank you very, very much to spend the time. If people are looking for you guys, how do they find you?
Well, on our website, people can visit our website. The website is www.melasat.com. And the directions are on there. Our email is on there. They can phone us, they can email us on social media. So we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And our tasting room is open, well, under normal circumstances, 7 days a week. And we welcome everybody to come and visit us and experience our personal and passionate attention. We're a small team, and you'll probably see Stephen or myself there. And yeah, I would love to see everybody out there.
That's awesome. And at the moment, your online shop is open for business, right?
Yes, people can go to our website or sell it direct.
Okay, that's awesome. Giselle, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very, very much for spending the time. I know you're busy, and I'm sure people will appreciate the information. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Will. I appreciate chatting with you. It was very nice chatting to you, and I hope to see you at the farm soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to influencers and leaders in the wine industry, winemakers, restaurants, and other businesses. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out. Now, to get on with the show. Today I'm talking to Laurie Cooper of Abingdon Estate. Good morning, Laurie.
Good morning, Will.
I'd love to hear a bit more about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Yeah, so my kind of journey in wine is probably a short one, but a fast-tracked one. It goes back to my parents started Abingdon back in 2004. So throughout school, I was involved in the industry, and then my parents were running a wine estate, but I never had any interest in it. I don't really remember much of it. It was only much later, around 2012, I was living in London, and I finally decided to do just a quick wine course because I really needed to know more about wine. And that was kind of the beginning of being completely sucked in and immersed in this industry. And from one short wine course to my WSET diploma, I then came home, started to join the farm full-time. So I did the winemaking with my dad, opened the wine school so that I could run the WSET courses and do. And then got involved on kind of sommelier side of things. And so went into my sommelier qualifications, won the Moet & Chandon Best Young Sommelier last year, and
Awesome.
I'm currently on the Master of Wine program. So it's been kind of a whirlwind, but loved every minute of it.
Tell us a bit more about this Moet program. That sounds exciting, and congratulations on winning.
Thank you. So it's, as I said, my history is a lot more on the study of wine, the wine tasting, and I've never really been involved in the sommelier service side of things. So I did the qualification just to kind of better myself, and also because I was running those courses and wanted to be able to teach it. And I thought I'd just enter the competition on a bit of a whim, really. So it was the Moet & Chandon Best Young Sommelier, which took place in October last year, and we went through the quarterfinals, the semi-finals. The next thing, I found myself in the finals and won it. So it's that side of things is also taking off and being a great journey.
That's awesome. So tell me, how did your parents start making wine in KZN? I mean, I'm from the Cape, so I didn't even know you guys were making wine there, to be honest. So I was ashamed of myself, but anyway, tell us a bit more how you started and a little bit of the history of Abingdon Estate.
Yeah, I suppose you could call it brilliance or sheer madness. So my dad, we moved from Johannesburg. My parents were based in Johannesburg and moved to Abingdon back in 2000. And they bought the farm with absolutely no plans to make wine. My dad is a petroleum engineer, has absolutely no experience in winemaking at all. But the more Ian looked at the land and the more he wanted to do something with it, he kept coming up with different ideas. And we were actually in the Alps, and he saw these vineyards, and something just triggered. And he just thought, you know what, if you can make wines in extreme climates, if you can make them in wetter climates at altitude, why aren't there any vineyards in Natal? So he started researching it. And he started researching, this idea came about in about 2002. And in 2004, he planted the first vines. So everything he's done from the beginning then was 100% self-taught. He has no experience in wine. KwaZulu-Natal had no vineyards. But he's just an incredibly determined, stubborn, hardworking man, and he decided to make it happen. So in 2007, we produced our first KZN estate wine.
What an awesome story. Now that you mentioned the Swiss Alps, some of the best wine in Europe are made and then obviously consumed right there, because it's not a lot of volume that can be produced in those extreme climates. Are you finding the same volume type of thing that you're producing small amounts?
Yeah, so we're a very small estate. We're about 3.5 hectares under vine, and it's exactly that. In an extreme climate, for us, we want to be able to make sure that we are focusing on the quality and not the quantity. And the bigger you go, obviously things like summer rainfall, you've got to manage your rot. Your hands-on maintenance and canopy management is so big that it would just be silly to try and produce on a mass scale. You just can't keep on top of it. So we do keep it small. It's small production, and it just means that we can really, as a family, stay on top of the viticulture and make sure that we're monitoring everything, and we're really looking after the vines in this kind of a climate.
By the sounds of it, you're the only wine producer in KZN, am I right?
There's 3 of us. So on a commercial level, there's now 3 producers. So Abingdon is the oldest, and we produced the first estate wines out of KZN. And then since then, Highgate Wine Estate is just across the valley. They've they've joined us, and there's also Cathedral Peak Cellars, Cathedral Peak Wines. Yeah.
Do you think there's growth in the industry there? Do you see opportunity for more vineyards to be planted?
Absolutely, I hope so. I think, especially with global warming, we're starting to see, you know, the quality this year was sensational. We're starting to see warmer days, we're seeing less rain, our season is becoming drier and drier. And so I think there's huge potential to build KZN as a wine region and get more wine estates. We've got beautiful altitudes. So Abingdon sits at 1,140 meters. So beautiful altitude with the season getting drier, those cold winters. It's a lovely place to be.
It's amazing. The global warming seems to be having an effect everywhere. I've been to, I think, what's the place called Denby Wine Estate in Surrey in England,
Yes.
which they used to have warmers in their vineyards to actually heat their vines during the cold winter days. And the last few years they haven't needed it. And also the quality of the wines have improved significantly because of, you know, the warming effect.
Yep, I think there's certainly places that we thought wouldn't produce previously are now in the limelight, and yeah, the UK is definitely one of them.
Yeah, amazing. So, what can a guest experience when visiting your estate? What do you have there?
So we focus on, we're a family wine estate, and we want you to be able to really experience that. So on the estate, we have a tasting room and we have a wine bar that serves tapas-style meals on the weekend. And we always want you to know that if you do come to Abingdon, you will meet one of us. You'll be able to speak to one of the winemakers, either myself or Ian. Jane does all the cooking. Jane's my mother. She does all the cooking. And we're very much involved. And there's always a bustling atmosphere. You get to taste a range of all our wines. And it's just that really personal experience that we hope to be able to give people when they visit.
So the fact that you're calling it a wine bar, besides the tasting room, sounds to me like you almost there must be some locals coming, and it's almost a place where people come to hang out on weekends on a regular basis. Is this true?
Very much so, yeah. So we've been very privileged that I would say for about the last 5 to 6 years, most weekends are fully booked. And we've got repeat customers. A lot of our Durban-based guests travel to us for lunch. And so, yeah, we've been very successful. Last year, we won the American Express Dining Awards, the best kept secret in the country. And yeah, it's a great place that's always going to be busy and hopefully an experience.
Amazing. So, Laurie, now to the important stuff. Tell us a bit more about the wines that you are making there.
So we make for a small estate, we make a range of different wines from, well, MCC, although we don't call them Method Cup Classique, we call it a Method Traditionnel. So we've got a Chardonnay Blanc de Blanc, we've got a Rosé style MCC, we also have a Viognier Petnat. In terms of the white wines, we have Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Viognier. On the red wines, we have Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, and a Nebbiolo, which we produced our first vintage this year. And so a range of different wines. We like to be able to experiment. There's always 1 or 2 different blends or different wines that we produce each year just to give you something different. But we hope that they give you a uniquely KZN profile. So everything we do is 100% estate wines. It's all from the farms, and we want you to be able to hopefully taste that difference, to taste KZN wines, that continental aspect, that lovely fresh acidity, the elegance that comes with them. So we're never going to make a full-bodied, big, bold, rich style of Mediterranean style wine, but we do make something that's uniquely KZN. And yeah, it's been a great start for me, I think, in my winemaking journey, to be able to come to a family estate where we can experiment and play around. And yeah, we have great fun. Amazing.
So where are your wines sold? Are you exporting them or local market? What happens?
So about 98% are sold from the estate, cellar door. So we are listed in a few restaurants and hotels around the province, but most of them are sold from the farm. And I think a large part of that was the decision that we didn't want to be in a bottle store. We didn't want to be a wine on the shelf. We wanted people to come visit us to hear the story. We don't export at the moment. It possibly would be something that we'll look into in the future. But again, it was just making sure that we looked after our local base, making sure that we got to the point where as a young wine estate, we had consistent production. We were happy with the quality. We're building a name in our local base before looking at any other options.
I understand that. Are you, I mean, with your wine bar being popular and also the local market there, would you consider maybe expanding to restaurant? Is that something in your pipeline?
Definitely, yeah. So we've been very lucky with a lot of our listings so far have been great listings. So things like the Oyster Box Hotel, Hartford House, 9th Avenue. We've been able to be quite selective, which has been fantastic. And it's only really in this last year that we've managed to see out a full year with our wines. So previously they were selling out within 2-3 months, and we would spend most of the year with no wine.
Wow.
Which as a wine estate becomes a little difficult if people are coming to your tasting to taste your wines. There was one December was our busiest period of the year, and we closed. We had no wine. So a lot of it in previous years has also been just looking after the tasting room and making sure we have the stock so that people who visit the estate will be able to taste our wines. Going forward, now that we are slowly, the newer blocks are kicking in, we've got larger production, and we can start to look at those other options.
The other producers, can you buy in from them, or are they also using their own their stock to full capacity?
So as far as I'm aware, we're the only registered estate in KZN. So everything we do will be 100% from the farm.
Okay.
I know that I think, the others, Highgate, they still KZN, but they might have bought some grapes from, I think there's a Hilton vineyard. So it's still keeping it within KZN, but for us, we are 100% estate grown, and we will always keep it 100% estate grown. So both this year is a small harvest, and we wish we had more, but that's the way it is, and it will stay 100% Abingdon. So a small harvest is a small harvest.
Laurie, now about this, the next thing looks like your baby, the KZN School of Wine. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So my original journey was all through the Wine and Spirit Education Trust in the UK, so WACT. And I went through to my diploma level when I moved home. And at the time I moved back, there was only one other school for WACT, which Kathy Marston's running in the Cape. And I really wanted to offer something on the East Coast, and to be able to offer the courses, which are wonderful courses, internationally recognized WACT wine courses. And I wanted to be able to bring that to KZN. So I decided to open the school, which was back in 2014, I think, and run a range of different classes so that we could offer wine courses in Natal, and to anyone. I'm really passionate about wine education, and just to be able to expand that. So yeah, the KZN School of Wine is run on the farm, and we run different courses from really fun, quick one-day courses through to the WACT level 3, a lot more intense courses.
Well, I suppose with the growth in tourism in South Africa the last few years, demand from hotels and places like that who need people who are educated in wine has also grown.
Exactly, yeah. And I think especially for KZN, we don't have that history of a wine culture. We need, I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of the service and the wine education.
Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show. So, Laurie, the thing that has, on our minds all the time with the lockdown and everything, the coronavirus, and this has forced everyone to rethink their business model. Do you have any changes or new ideas in mind? Maybe online sales? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I think it's certainly forced everyone to relook at things. So it's obviously, I think hospitality has been hit in a huge way, and with the ban of alcohol sales, the wine industry, it's tough times for us. So I think everybody needs to be able to look at different ways to move forward. Anything that is digitally minded, I think, is a great way at the moment. I think, Corona really has brought about kind of a digital transformation of business. So yeah, online sales is definitely, once we can open sales, that will be fantastic for us. And I think what we've really been focusing on is what we've seen throughout this time was the support we've had, which has been really fantastic. Is just those really loyal supporters who have wanted to, and I think we've seen it across the industry, wanting to help those who can't drum up business at this time. So we've really had an unbelievable response of those who want to be there for us, show their support, buy wines for after lockdown. And a large part of our kind of ideas moving forward is also around how do we give back to these people? Because a lot of them have been with Abingdon since day one. They've bought our first vintage, they've been there and they keep buying. And I think we, as a family, we had a big discussion as to, right, when this is over, we need to find a way to give back, whether it's through wine clubs and invitation to events and verticals of our old vintages, and just being able to support those who've really shown their support, not only through this period, but also just from the beginning. And that's really humbling. That's been a really lovely kind of, in this period, which is not ideal, it's been really great to see. And so now it's just that, I think, is our ideas is right. It's time to give back.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing how this whole thing has brought people together. Also, with your education side, I think the potential, a lot of things can be digitized and taken online, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen, again, huge support from kind of WACT courses and wine courses as to, right, how can we help you to continue to run your courses? So a lot of them, and I mean, you see it on Instagram, it's fantastic just to watch, different chefs cooking and how many people are starting to do lectures. So yeah, we're starting to look at ways to lecture online. We have our online courses, different ways to run the exams, to get the materials. And yeah, there's a huge amount of change coming in, and this is a time where people are home and maybe not as busy as they usually would have been. So it's a perfect time to start courses and to start something.
Well, like
yeah.
No, apologies. Like you say, people are sitting at home, so they might as well learn something.
Exactly, yeah. So we're really looking at ways. We have a great online support and ways that we can continue those courses online.
Right. Your wine journey. Tell us, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
I think for me, because it's been a short wine journey, yet kind of a fast track wine journey, you're always learning. And if there's anything I think that I've learned, or what I've found most important, is that you never stop learning. So it's always to stay humble. It doesn't really matter whether you've had 2 years in the industry or 60 years in the industry. You are always going to learn something new. Something's going to be thrown at you. You never, ever know enough. And I mean, especially in things like KZN and New Region, we are still learning every day. Every time we think, okay, we've got it, you learn something new. And the same thing with the courses. It's just every time I've done another qualification or I've finished another book, something else gets thrown at you. So I think it is really a way of teaching you to stay humble, because this is a lifetime journey. I don't think I'm ever going to know enough. So yeah, just keep learning. You'll never know enough.
Well, it's awesome that as a winemaker, you can actually learn from your dad. And also, what I'd like to know, your family's philosophy on winemaking. Can you sum that up a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think, I really admire my father and his philosophy. From the beginning, it's always been 100% quality driven and integrity. And he, you'll see, of course, in a family business, you have debates and heated discussions, shall we say. The amount of times my mum and I are saying, oh, Ian's done it again. He's, I don't know, pruned this vine so that we can have a healthy crop 4 years time. And he's been so stringent on making sure that even if you make sacrifices in a year, 2 years, 3 years, by the time you get to the long-term goal, you'll be in the right place. And I think you really admire that. So it's never been, there's no shortcuts. It's always been, he's thrown 100% into it. And it's been, I suppose, integrity and quality. So everything we've done is, we're not just going to be, the small guys trying to make some wine. Let's do this with the aim to produce quality from the very beginning. And even if that costs you short term, let's do it for the long term, which he started from the beginning. And I was in the wine industry. And when you become involved as a second generation, that's when you really appreciate it. Is thanks, Dad.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Laurie, last question. Do you have a favorite wine quote, or do you have your own wine quote?
I have lots of them.
All right.
Probably not all my own, but I was thinking, there was something I read the other day that kind of struck home with me, and it said, wine is not only an object of pleasure, but an object of knowledge. And the level of that pleasure depends greatly on the knowledge. And that really struck home with me, because the more you know about my wine, the more knowledge you have, the more you appreciate it, the more you want to know. And that's really lovely, because, that knowledge of wine gives you the pleasure, but also we're in the fortunate position where the pleasure of wine gives you the knowledge. And that, to me, I think has always been my journey in wine, is knowing more about wine, is being passionate enough to continue studying it, so that you can get greater joy out of it. And we're really lucky that the study of wine is also drinking it.
Awesome. Laurie, if our listeners wants to find your estate, or they want to find your wines, or they want to find you online, how do they get hold of you?
Yep, so the estate is Abingdon Wine Estate. So our website is www.abingdonestate.co.za. The school is the KZN School of Wine. So likewise, www.kznschoolofwine.co.za. And we should, on the website, you'll see the full range of wines. If you want to get in touch with us, please send us an email. We always have updated lists, and we can send to the Cape.
That's awesome. Laurie, thank you for spending time with us, and I appreciate the time you've taken, and good luck with the rest of the lockdown and the rest of your year. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders,
influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Liam Tomlin. He's the owner and founder of Chef's Warehouse. How are you, Liam? Welcome to About the Winelands.
Thanks, Will. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging times we are in, and especially with you being in the restaurant business. So
Yeah,
I can believe it must be hard.
it is. It's quite difficult, but we're taking it day by day. There's nothing really else we can do. We're doing our best to hold on to all our staff. Yeah, it's a challenge. It really is.
Liam, how did you tell us a bit to our listeners who would be interested here? How did you get involved in the restaurant and the food industry?
Wow. I started an apprenticeship when I was 14 years of age in Dublin. So I left school very early. I started actually washing pots in a hotel in Dublin, and then it just grew out of there. The chef offered me a position, and I worked as a young chef in Dublin for a few years, and then I went to London and Switzerland, and sort of, when I got to Switzerland, the penny sort of dropped for me that I really wanted to be a chef. Before that, I was just doing it as a job to make money. But then when I went to Switzerland, I just, totally fell in love with the career. But
that's amazing.
Hindsight's a great thing. Looking at it now, owning 6 restaurants, probably not the best business to be in. But anyway, no, it's been a brilliant industry to be in. I've had an amazing career so far, and I'm sure we'll continue to have an amazing career once we get back on track after this virus.
I think times will be difficult, but human behavior does not change that quickly. I mean, we've gone through 2 world wars and a lot of other stuff. So let's hope that things, will go on its merry way very soon.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you share a bit of history about the Chef's Warehouse brand? I mean, I saw that I saw that after Switzerland, did you go to Australia, if I'm right? And you also won some awards there.
Yeah, I had a restaurant. I moved to Australia. I lived there for 15 years. So I lived in Melbourne for 2 years and then moved to Sydney and lived there for 13 years.
Wow.
And we had several restaurants there, but we had one called Bank, which was, that was the one that sort of put us on the map. We won a lot of awards in Australia for that, which was fantastic. It was an amazing restaurant. And we had it for 6-7 years.
Wow.
It was very cool. It was a great restaurant.
Why did you make you move to South Africa?
Originally, I went to Australia for a year and ended up staying for 15. And that business in Australia, I was in a partnership that went a bit pear-shaped. So I decided I didn't want to stay. I never really originally wanted to go to Australia. So I agreed with my wife to go for a year. And like I said, we stayed for 15. And I decided it was time for a change. And we'd been to South Africa once before and absolutely loved it. And I wanted a lifestyle very similar to what we had in Australia as far as climate and lifestyle and whatever. And we came to Cape Town, and best move ever. Love it here.
Amazing. You sound like that. You sound like a typical South African immigrating to Australia. The lifestyle and the sunshine.
Yeah, you know what they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. But when you get there, you still have to cut the grass. It grows. And, quite honestly, Australia is a wonderful place, but I love it here in South Africa. I really do.
Yeah, what a fantastic country we have.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit of the history of how you started Chef's Warehouse and the brand and,
Chef's Warehouse was originally, it was a cookery school and a retail store for cookbooks and kitchen equipment. And then where where Chef's Warehouse now, the original one on Bree Street, that venue came available, and I always loved that space. And we decided to move venues, and it wasn't in the planning. It wasn't to open a restaurant. It was still going to be a cookery school. We were going to expand the deli side of the business and the product range and everything. And then I don't know, we had a few seats, and we decided we'd do like a light lunch, and we opened the first day. Second day, I think we were full, and it just never, the cookery school sort of never happened, and it ended up turning into what it is today. So sort of, it was just purely by moving location. I mean, the location for me, I love that space in the original Bree Street space. And it just grew out of that. And then it became extremely, extremely popular. And we had a whole little menu going on, but we offered, part of that menu was tapas for two. And after a couple of weeks, we discovered that's all that people were ordering. So we decided to do tapas for two. And that's been the concept ever since.
So where did you get this tapas influence? Because it seems, I saw that was a, you know, as a kind of a golden thread through your restaurants.
Yeah, it was just, you know, when we were in Sydney and we had that restaurant bank, that was very fine dining, very top end, very labor intensive, and it was very French influenced. So you were very sort of restricted in as far as what ingredients you could use and what techniques you could use, etc. So I just, firstly, I like eating the way we serve our food. So lots of different flavors and sharing. So I love that whole concept. And I didn't want to be restricted to, you know, I didn't want it to be like a typical classical Spanish tapas. So, you know, we can go in and we can choose what we want to cook on a daily basis, whether it be Japanese influenced or Asian or Indian or Italian or whatever we want, whatever is available to us as far as ingredients. And it just gives us so much flexibility, keeps it interesting for the guys in the kitchen because they're learning something on a daily basis. And it also keeps it interesting for guests that they're coming back and we're forever changing our menu. I mean, it changes on a daily basis. Not in all our restaurants, but in Bree Street, it changes on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. You also have restaurants in the Winelands. Tell us about that.
We have three. We've got one, Bo Constantia, up in Constantia. We've got another Chef's Warehouse at Maison in Franschhoek. And then we recently opened a restaurant with Neil and Tina Jewell up on the Spice Root Farm in Paarl called Jewels. So yeah, I love the restaurants out in the Winelands. It's just, you know, they're all set in these most beautiful settings. It's just really, really beautiful spaces. I love them. Yeah, I really do. I love the ones in the city, but I also love driving out to the Winelands, and it's just a completely different atmosphere. And, you know, we're blessed with some of the most beautiful countryside in the world, I think, when you go to Paarl and Franschhoek and drive up through Constantia Neck. I mean, Cape Town is just such a beautiful city.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and also, you know, you have this advantage almost of a cross-sell. If people come to your Bree Street restaurant, you can say to them, go try our restaurant in this place, because then they want to visit those places anyway, and it would be great.
Absolutely. I mean, the tourists will often have people who come to Cape Town from wherever, UK, America, Holland, and they will eat in all 5 restaurants during a week or 10 days. And that's very special to me.
That must make you feel proud, right?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, the great thing about Chef's Warehouse is they're all individual. You know, there's no two the same. We're doing completely different thing. I've got brilliant chefs, chef partners, Ivor Jones, Dave Schneider. We've got Nanda Cadasso at Bree Street. I've got JP and Nate up at Tali, and then obviously Neil Jewell. And I mean, they're all very talented young chefs and all very different, but and all brilliant cooks. So everywhere you go is very, very different. So, but you can, you know, there is a common thread through our restaurants.
That's amazing. You know, so what you're telling me is you have a philosophy that is the thread, but it doesn't really feel like a chain.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, it's very important for me. You know, I stepped out of the kitchen. I'm still very involved with the restaurants on a daily basis, but I stepped out of the kitchen a little bit over 2 years ago, maybe a little longer, to focus more on the business side of it and to focus on the opportunities that come our way. And it's very important for me that, you know, it's not Liam Tomlin Chef's Warehouse. Every Chef's Warehouse, whoever works there gets the credit for what they do. Yeah, I founded the brand and the concept, but these guys are the ones who should take all the credit because, like I said, they're very talented individuals.
Well, that's amazing. You also, another fantastic city, of course, is Barcelona, and you ventured into Barcelona. Can you tell us a bit more? That sounds very exciting.
Barcelona is run by two chefs who used to work for us in Bree Street. And one of them, Angelo Scirocco, worked with us for about, I think he was with us for close on 2 years. And he went over to Barcelona to do some work for me with our business partner. And my landlord in Bree Street has hotels just outside Barcelona. And Angelo went over there to do a little bit of work for her to help. And he fell in love with a young Spanish girl, and he phoned me up and he said he didn't want to come back, and he wanted to open a restaurant. And that's how it came about. So I said to him, "Okay, go find a space." And he honestly walks the streets of Barcelona. He went to college every morning to learn the language. He speaks fluent Spanish now, writes it. Incredible young guy. And he phoned me one day. He says, "I found the space," and himself, myself, and my landlord from Bree Street are equal partners in that restaurant. And it's hugely, hugely successful, obviously, until we got undone with this virus. But he'll be back in a couple of weeks, hopefully. And he's a seriously talented guy.
Well, amazing story, right? A love story that ends in a restaurant is something that has to be told until you're old, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a true story. He fell in love with this young girl, and she's lovely. I've met her. I've been over there. And he said he's staying. So, and he's happy, and he has a European passport, so there was no issues regarding visas or if he could stay or not. So he's very, very happy.
So I see you also have a pantry and a bookshop. So tell us a little bit more about that. I saw somewhere that you wanted to build the biggest cookery bookshop in South Africa or in Africa.
Yeah, that was our plan. I mean, I think we've probably got one of the biggest selections of cookbooks on offer. It's located at Bree Street, and it's part of the retail section of what we do. So we do in both Maison, Bree Street, and in Jules up on the Spice Route, we do retail in the restaurants also. So we sell all food related things and especially cookbooks. But we don't do any of the, the TV stuff, the Jamie Olivers or the Nigellas or anything like that. It's all very much, I'm not saying they're not professional, but we don't do mass market stuff. We do very boutique-y, artisanal cookbooks. So if you're looking for something out of the ordinary, if we don't have it, we'll get it for you.
Interesting. So you've also written your own books. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
I've written 5 books, I think, and I'm in the process now of doing the 6th one. So I've been trying to do it while we've been closed down during this, but I just can't focus. It's too hard to concentrate on anything at the moment. But I'm doing a book at the moment, which is going to be published by Penguin later this year. And it's basically a book about our 5 restaurants here. And it's a chapter on each of the chefs and their food and their philosophy and all about our, how we operate as a business, each individual chef's philosophy, all about our suppliers, our ingredients, sustainability. So it's a photographic journey through a day in the life of the kitchen. But we've got an amazing young photographer, a lady called Claire Gunn, who is used to be a chef herself. So she completely understands the runnings of a kitchen, completely gets food. So it's just it's an absolute pleasure. And it's not your typical book where we stylize everything. Claire just goes in and shoots from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. And she shoots everything as it is, as it's going out to the restaurant, as it's served to the guest, whatever. There's no frilling it up. It's really in your face kitchen stuff, but it's brilliant. It's really, I think it's going to be the best book we've ever done. And
Sounds
then we've got a
awesome.
book. Yeah, it's really, it's very exciting. Then we've got another book that's been republished. It's on its second print run now, and it should be, I think it's released in June again through Penguin. And it's called Tapas, and it's based on Brie Street. So we published that about 4 or 5 years ago. So we've redone it. We've put some new dishes in, took some of the old one out, put some new shots in it, etc. So we've sort of refreshed it, republished it. So that should be out hopefully in June.
Okay,
if
awesome.
the bookstores are open, then we'll be out.
Yeah, that's a different story, right? We'll come to that a bit later. What is
Otherwise,
the?
I'll be selling it at the traffic lights.
I'm sure you'll get some buyers. What is the Ginger and Lime's cooking school?
Ginger and Lime is a very dear friend of mine, Denise Levy, and it's she set up a cookery school probably 3 or 4 years ago, and she started it in her home in Fresnay, and I used to do quite a few classes with her. But it's a beautiful space where you can either come and see a chef like myself do cooking demonstrations, or there's lots of other people who come and do demos, or you can hire it out and do hands-on cooking with Denise and her team, or you can hire it as a space just for, if you want to do a work event or a team building event or anything like that. And now she's opened a second one called Kitchen Collective, and that's in the Bocop. So it's a much bigger space. But it's basically, she's not a chef by profession. She's just got a real passion for food, and she just always had a dream of opening up her own cookery school. And she did it a couple of years ago. It's hugely successful. And she's just published her own book, her own cookbook as well, with her favorite recipes from her travels and from her cookery schools.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, she's a very special woman.
Your cooking philosophy, where did that come from, and what is your cooking philosophy?
Quite honestly, you'll get a lot of chefs who say they were cooked with their grandmother or whatever. I none of that. I mean, I was brought up in Ireland. It was very basic food. It was, you knew what you were eating on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was sort of a very small repertoire. I'm not knocking it, but my mum was a great cook and a great baker, and she cooked for us every single day. We had wonderful food, but it never fascinated me at that age. And like I said, I got into kitchens purely because I wanted to get out of school. I wanted a job. I wanted a bit of pocket money, and it grew on me over the years. But I don't know. I'm probably very old school when I look at the young guys who work with us now. I am quite old school. And I like to keep things pretty simple. My whole philosophy is less is more. I'll look at a dish and I'll look at what I can take off it rather than what I need to add to it.
Yeah. I find our winemakers say the same thing, right? It's all about, the ingredients and letting nature do its work. And, I think with cooking, it's probably the same thing, like you just wanted to say, the ingredients are so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got such amazing ingredients here. The produce here is as good as anything in the world, anywhere else in the world. We've got amazing little boutique growers and suppliers. You know, we up at the restaurants, we're so lucky we can even forage some beautiful mushrooms and herbs. We're very lucky we've got space where we can grow our own vegetables. We've got beautiful vegetable gardens of our own. So it's very much, we're very seasonal driven. So you know, you won't see Israeli strawberries on our menu. You'll see strawberries when they're grown in South Africa in season. Same with our asparagus. You won't see asparagus from Thailand or wherever. So all our chefs, I think, are very seasonal driven. But for me, yeah, less is more. And it really is. I just hate overcomplicated food. I don't see the point in it. I really don't.
Yeah. So.
And I don't want to eat that type of food.
I agree with you.
To be
totally.
quite honest.
Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support their country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show.
What are the most important traits that a chef should have, do you think?
Wow. You know, it's changed a hell of a lot since I trained in, like, if I look at when I worked in Dublin, London, I worked in Amsterdam, I worked in Italy, I worked in Switzerland. And we used to, and we still have young chefs who are completely dedicated to this profession. But we used to work 16, 18 hours a day. I used to work for the Roux brothers. I always remember Michel Roux telling me that you couldn't cook good food in 8 hours. And basically that was his way of telling me, you're going to work 16 hours a day, but I'm only going to pay you for 8. But we did that. We did it because, you know, those other 8 hours, even though you didn't get paid for it, it was an education like you get nowhere else. And now with labor laws, especially, I still follow what goes on in Australia a lot because obviously I lived there for 15 years. I've got lots of friends there still. I mean, I don't know how they operate over there. It's a very strict 8 hour a day. And it's true, you can't cook great food in 8 hours a day. You really can't. And it's not feasible to have, in most restaurants, it's not feasible to have 2 shifts a week. We're very lucky. Up till a couple of weeks ago, our restaurants were extremely busy. So we try and work our chefs 4 days a week, so they get 3 days rest. We make sure they eat well. I mean, that never happened when I was working. You know, you were lucky you had a choice, get a 10-minute break or go outside and have a couple of cigarettes. Most of us went outside and had a couple of cigarettes, so you wouldn't eat all day. And when you did, it wasn't very healthy food, but we try and cook a decent meal for all our staff every single day. A lot of them is the only meal they're going to have. But I think you've got to have passion for this. And you've got to be completely committed. But I also think it's really important early on in your career is to decide what it is you want out of the career. Do you want to own your own restaurant? Do you want to be the executive chef of a large hotel? Do you want to be the chef on a cruise liner? Do you want to have a catering company? Whatever it is, and then train towards your goal. And especially, you know, young chefs who want to go into business eventually is to learn about business. You know, a lot of fantastic chefs around, and me included, we're not the best business brains. We're cooks at the end of the day. So for me, really, really important that if you do want to go off and set up your own business, whether it's a top-end restaurant, catering company, I don't know, it could be a food truck, whatever, a stall in a market. You need to do the figures. You need to know, you know, you need to be, it's a lot more now. I'm a human resources person. I'm an accountant. I'm a chef. I'm a brewer. I'm a cleaner. You got to be, it's not for the faint-hearted, this profession. I think reality TV has made it look very glossy, very glamorous, but it's like any profession. It's like Premier Football ship. It's like Formula One racing. It's like anything. There's only a very few that make it really to the top of the game. And they're the ones you'll see on TV, are the ones who, you know, the celebrity guys, the Ramseys, and that's very few. That's 0.0002% of the industry.
Unfortunately, those are the guys that young people see and they aspire to, and they don't realize the hard work that goes with, you know, getting to a point like that.
No, absolutely. They all want to be TV stars, but they don't want to do the hard work. I mean, for me, you know, I think I'd worked in the profession for 15 years before I took my first head chef position. Now kids will get offered a head chef position after coming out of college after 3 years. It's ridiculous. It really is. But we don't have the volume of people we used to have.
Also, we have a world that, you know, everybody wants instant gratification. I mean, I think that also even happens with your customers, right? They don't want to wait for anymore. They just want everything fresh and served immediately.
No, that's true. It's very, very true. It's really true.
One thing I'm very interested in that you're talking about, you know, in your traditional, I mean, you had a very traditional experience in starting really at the bottom in the restaurant and working yourself up. Were you ever trained in any business, the business side of, or the guys that you work with keep that to themselves? And did that change over time? Do restaurants now actually train the chefs in the business side?
I try to. I think it's very important. I think it's really important that the young guys understand the value of everything and what things cost. And, you know, everybody walks into one of our restaurants on a busy night, and often people will say to me, oh, you must be coining it because, you know, you've got 4 or 5 full restaurants. But, you know, our rents are massive. Our VAT bills are massive. Our salary bills are massive. Our gas, our electricity, our water, our refuse, our PAYE. I mean, there are so many things that come off that 500 Rand bill or 1,000 Rand bill. There's so much that out of that 1,000 Rand that has to be paid even before you consider looking at profits. I mean, the price of ingredients, the wine list, the license fees, it goes on and on and on. You know, the printing of menus, the soap in the bathrooms, it's endless. Staff uniforms, credit card fees, bank fees, license fees to have your liquor license. It just, you know, everybody thinks restaurants print money, but it's the margins get smaller and smaller and smaller. And now my big fear is when we come out of lockdown and we're supposed to keep social distancing and we're not allowed to have so many people in the restaurant, etc. You know, my restaurants are designed for a certain amount of people. So if it's a 60-seat restaurant, it needs to have 60 people in it to make it a profitable business. You can't have a 60-seat restaurant and be told you can only serve 30 people and you can't serve alcohol after 6 o'clock in the evening. That's not a business model anymore. So I really fear for not just the restaurant industry, the wine industry. I've been watching, obviously we've got restaurants and 3 wineries, and I've got lots of friends in the wine industry, farmers, winemakers, salespeople, etc. And, you know, the restaurant industry, a lot of people depend on us, like the wine industry depend on us. We've got all these different farmers. You know, I've got over 100 suppliers and services that I use that I'm not using at the moment. So it's not just the restaurant industry, it's the knock-on effect of what's going to come out of this if we are limited to what we can do.
Well, it's the whole chain, isn't it? I mean, that's
yeah.